Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our preview for Power Book 3 Raising Kanan, coming to Starz this weekend. It has been a very, very long wait since this was first announced.
I cannot wait for this one. I mean, I really enjoyed Power. I like Power Book 2 a lot, but this one, I'm really excited about this one.
It's funny because I've never admitted to being the biggest Kanan fan in the world.
You can see yourself
Okay,
out.
it's just he wasn't my favorite character of Power proper, but there's something about watching the trailer and seeing these characters and like the time period, like all of that just it feels like a really cool, interesting sort of look into a world that TV just doesn't focus on at all.
I love prequels. I mean, even if we end up sort of knowing where things end up, it's kind of cool to see where things started out. And I'm very curious to where things started out.
There's a lot of questions I think this show is going to ask. We will not have answers to all of them in here, but we will wonder what the answers could be. But before we dive into anything more here, why not hit that subscribe button? Because guess what? We're going to be here reviewing Power Book 3, Raising Kanan throughout this season.
Yeah, and follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV.
Also, we should point out from the jump, Power Book 3 has already been renewed for a second season.
Yeah, which is, actually not that surprising because, I mean, after Power wrapped up, it was like, oh, we're going to have 20 spin-offs. So I was kind of like, okay, so now that it's been renewed, it hasn't even aired yet. Not surprising, but it's good to know going into this that we're going to get more. This isn't a one and done.
No, I like being able to think, okay, whatever's happening this season, they don't have to like rush to wrap everything up. They can take their time.
Yeah, and I think that Kanan's story needs time. I mean, we're going to be getting into his life. He's 15 years old. It's 1991. He's very young still. So it really is sort of the beginning of his path.
The fact that he's only 15 is one of the things that's the most interesting to me about this show, because I think so many of us remember when we were 15 and you watch this trailer and you see some of the stuff Kanan already gets himself mixed up in. It's just like, when I was 15, I was just, I don't know, playing Nintendo 64.
Yeah, I mean, I was even thinking about Snowfall, which is another one of my favorite shows, and he's only 21. Franklin is 21. And every time I see him, I'm just like, I got to keep remembering, like, he is really young. And then we get into Raising Kanan, and he is 15 years old, like, even younger, so young.
I think one of the big questions that, Power Book 3 is looking to answer is, how did Kanan obviously end up becoming the person that he is? And I think a lot of it's inevitably going to be his upbringing, but also getting into it at the age that he did, it kind of makes it so that it's like even more formative than him like getting out of college and being like, oh, I now want to run the game and now I want to do this.
Okay, so from the preview, it looks like his mom, Rock, is going to really be very influential, and I mean, it's his mom, so it makes sense that the person who is going to be the most influential in his life is his mother.
It makes all the sense in the world, and I'm excited for this Rock character. I want to learn a little bit more about her. I will admit that my fear is we just came out of like book 2 and we just had in there all these different relationships with mothers and their children. I mean, Monet in particular kind of had her own sort of like game running.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to see the exact same story, but then it also makes more sense then when you go all the way back to Power, why Kanan ended up having this relationship with TARIQ and why it ended up developing into the way that it did.
I ultimately, he's going to mimic people who are in his life, especially his mother, like you said. And, I do at least sit around, because my issue with prequels sometimes is I don't know what matters anymore, especially since Kanan, spoiler alert for those not caught up on Power, he's dead, he's gone, so what in this show actually is going to matter in the present day, like book 2, book 4, like some of these other shows?
Yeah, I mean, a good comparison is Better Call Saul. I mean, spoiler alert for people who haven't seen Breaking Bad. but we know that he's alive in the future. So having a prequel about his life, we know that there's still more story to tell, even though it's the last season coming up.
I mean, we'll cover Better Call Saul at the channel, but I'm not happy.
Oh, hell yeah, we will.
I ain't happy that it's ending. I'm happy about Raising Kanan, but I want this show to have like some element of relevancy. There we go. I found it. Just took me a minute. I want it to matter in the present. I don't want this to just be like a flash in the pan. Here's Kanan's story, and then none of this is significant in the rest of the universe.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions is, will any of these characters exist going into some of the future? Like, will we see somebody on Power Book 2 that was, present in Kanan's life? And that would make a lot of sense because Tariq, like I said, had a very important relationship with Kanan. Kanan really influenced him in a lot of ways. And that sort of brings me to what I really want to see out of this show. Yeah. And one of the things that I want to see is, because he is only 15, because the person who's going to be influencing him the most to get into the game or, going to let him help him is his mom, who's going to be the most influential person in his life. I want to see if there's another person in his life that could have influenced him in another way. Was there ever a moment where there was a second path? Is there any other family members? Could there be like a grandparent? Like, my grandparents were very influential in my life. The reason I'm out in California right now is because my grandpa Compton was like, you need to go out there and do your thing. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But I mean, also, like, could it just be, maybe not a grandparent, but maybe like an uncle or some aunties? My background is Guyanese, Caribbean, and I have 3 aunties and my mom, and let me tell you that they will influence you whether you like it or not. They are going to keep you on the straight and narrow. So was there somebody in his life that was maybe a positive influence, but he decided not to take that road, that we could see pop up in Power Book 2, which could then maybe be a positive influence in Tariq's life? Because that's a dimension to Tariq that is missing on his show.
I like this idea. I think this idea could be really fun to see explored in that sort of way. And I even think there's another question of, how does Rock present this life to Kanan? Is this something that is glamorized in his eyes? Is it made to look like it's something that is, flashy and cool, that it's exciting to be a part of it? Or is it a survival game? Is it I don't have any choice? And I think combining all of this stuff, external forces, his mother, the appeal of the life, and you're sort of like mixing it together in this like early 90s cauldron, like, those are ingredients to a really great show if they can pull them off.
So the other character that I'm the most interested to see is actually Jukebox. And it turns out that she's going to be part of this world as well. And I'd been really interested in what their connection was when I saw it on Power, because I couldn't really tell how close they were. If it was sort of they came up together, but they didn't really like each other, but they needed to be sort of working together, or if they were really close, because that moment where he decides to kill Jukebox and save Tariq was a really big moment. So I need to know what their relationship is.
I think it's very, very important. We know a little bit about Jukebox's path and how we sort of see her starting out in the Power world, but we don't know about how any of the dots are connected. We don't know anything really about their long-term connection, their relationship.
Yeah, and we don't know how or why she ended up becoming a cop. I mean, did she decide to do this because she wanted to try to do better, or was this another move where it was kind of like, okay, we need to have somebody on the inside. We're unable to sort of turn any cops to help us, and Jukebox was like, then I'll just become a cop.
The last thing for me that I'm really intent on seeing with this show is just more of vulnerability from Kanan himself, because the Kanan we meet that 50 Cent is playing on Power itself, like, he's already really, really hardened. He's gone through a lot in his life at that point. He turns out his emotions a lot of the time, and I just want to know, you know, what he was like before that, like how he came to be this way, where he sort of tunes out so many other forces outside of what drives him in his head.
Yeah, he was a really hard character in Power, but we did see just the tiniest bit of vulnerability there with Tariq. There was something there. So, I mean, that is something that I really do want to see him at 15. This is a very influential time in his life. So, if he's going to have any little bit of that, then this is where it's going to stay.
I am really excited for what's coming up. I think it has a great trailer. Anytime you do a great trailer, you're automatically going to get me more on board.
Yeah, that trailer is really exciting. There's a lot going on in it. Lots of action, it seems like. Lots of cool stuff coming up. I really cannot wait.
Yeah, you know, as somebody who grew up a lot in the 90s, just having something that's set in the 90s is going to be really fun. And like, oh, I remember that sort of way.
Same.
Yeah, all right. Well, let us know. What are you guys most excited to see on Raising Kanan? Remember, this weekend we will be back to break down everything that happens in the premiere alongside our review of the latest Animal Kingdom, which we are also covering if you guys are into that show.
Yeah, it's good so far. I won't spoil anything. Yeah. We have our review up. If you're watching Animal Kingdom, so are we.
All right, well, let us know what you guys want on Raising Kanan. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.